Welcome to the Aging in Place Education Seminar. If anyone should have any questions, please use your chat button and we'll try to get to the questions as quickly as possible. We will also have question and answer period at the end of our seminar this morning. Today, we have with us 4 amazing legal minds from Lackawanna County, and they will be going over wills, estates, trusts, and other legal matters concerning older adults. My name is Marian Drusick, and I am the Aging in Place Coordinator with NeighborWorks, Northeastern Pennsylvania. And I am now going to turn over our seminar to Nancy Barace, Solicitor for Lackawanna County, Kathy Tully, Assistant Deputy Director of Deputy District. Kathy, can you say your name, please, your title, please? I always screw it up.
It's Deputy District Attorney in charge of the Elder Abuse Unit.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Teddy Michael, Director of the Ignatian Volunteer Corps, as well as former practicing attorney, and Pam Janis of Lackawanna County Pro Bono. Teddy, would you like to kick us off, please?
I will. Good morning and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For our segment of the presentation, I will discuss the wills, power of attorney, and living wills. So let me here we go. To start off with our wills, power of attorney, and living wills. Again, we'll have time for question and answer at the conclusion of this presentation. My goal today is threefold. First is to provide everyone on the webinar with 2 resources pertinent to the topic of wills, power of attorneys, living wills for the older adult population that we find ourselves in or that we serve. Second, within each of these 3 legal documents, I'll provide a definition of some key legal terms. And finally, I'll conclude with a very high-level overview of what every document is and what every document does. So let's go. Resources. Lackawanna Pro Bono and the Lackawanna County Area Agency on Aging. Please take a minute to write down these telephone numbers. They will become your go-to resources should you encounter questions or issues you yourself have or a client or consumer has regarding any of these 3 specific legal documents: a will, a general power of attorney, or the living will or healthcare medical power of attorney. We're going to start with the power of attorney. Now, the power of attorney has 4 key terms that I'll define right now. The first is the agent or the attorney in fact. The agent or attorney in fact is the legal name provided to the individual responsible for making choices and exercising powers deemed to that individual through the legal document called the financial or general power of attorney. It's the person that actually does things on behalf of somebody else. And I mentioned a financial power of attorney and a general financial power of attorney. A financial power of attorney is defined as generally a limited document in scope for particular financial matters or financial affairs. It's a smaller scope document, whereas, of course, the general power of attorney is a document that's broader. You'll have the ability not only to help manage an individual's financial affairs, but also do things like making gifts, hiring individuals, being able to sell somebody's home, kind of examples like that. And last but not least, we come down to the principal. The principal is the legal name of the individual bestowing the power of attorney to somebody else. So for example, if I come to a point in my life where I need help managing my financial affairs, and I draft a document and I appoint Nancy as my agent or attorney in fact, I'm the principal, Nancy is the attorney in fact. So what does all of this mean? Or what are some real high level terms to keep in mind when you hear the legal document power of attorney? The agent, in the example Nancy, is a fiduciary on my behalf. Fiduciary is defined as rights or roles and responsibilities of an individual regarding the financial or legal matters of the principal. Nancy has to maintain separate accounts between her personal money and the money she's managing for me. When all of that comes together like a big plate of spaghetti, that's called commingling funds. That's no good. The financial power of attorney or general financial power of attorney can also appoint one or two individuals as your agents and attorney in fact. Generally, we would appoint one individual to act in that capacity and then a backup. The challenge, if two individuals are appointed as co-agents or co-attorneys in fact, they then need to make decisions together on behalf of the principal, which naturally arises in your mind. What if one person thinks one way and what if one person thinks another way as the agents? To circumvent that issue, generally what attorneys do is they appoint one individual to act as the agent or attorney in fact, and then a backup or a substitute. Should that first individual not be able to serve as the attorney in fact, then we have a backup in place. Every financial power of attorney and general power of attorney has an acknowledgement and a notice. The notice is signed by the principal, just outlining the terms that will flow from the document. And then an acknowledgement is signed by the agent. Now, here's something to walk away from. The power of attorney does not take legal effect the moment the principal signs it. Meaning that if Nancy is my agent, just because I signed it as the principal does not provide Nancy with the right to act on my behalf. There is a special acknowledgement that the agent must sign prior to exercising the legal duties and obligations stated in that general power of attorney. So I can go ahead and sign it as the principal and then hold on to it. I can put it in my safe place with my safe papers. And when a point of time arises that I feel I need help, I can then provide that acknowledgement form to Nancy, and she can begin helping me manage my financial and other affairs. We'll move on again from financial power of attorneys to living wills or medical power of attorneys. And again, I start with the two key resources, Lackawanna Pro Bono and the Lackawanna County Area Agency on Aging. Remember, when you have issues, questions, thoughts, here are the numbers to reach out and contact. Some key terms with the healthcare directives and living will. What is a healthcare directive? Essentially, that's the umbrella term encompassing a living will, a healthcare power of attorney, a medical power of attorney. They're all subsumed under this advanced healthcare directive. Generally, the difference between a living will and healthcare power of attorney or medical power of attorney is a living will state your wishes regarding the treatment you would like to receive when you find yourself in a terminal condition or in a permanent state of unconsciousness. The healthcare power of attorney takes all of that from the living will. However, it also provides the opportunity to appoint a medical surrogate to make decisions on your behalf should you find yourself in a terminal condition or in a permanent state of unconsciousness. So the same living will questions regarding forms of treatment you would like or not like when you find yourself in a terminal condition or permanent state of unconsciousness are found in the healthcare or medical power of attorney, with the addition that the medical or healthcare power of attorney has the ability to appoint a surrogate. And again, the agent would be that medical surrogate, and the principal would be me, the person who's going ahead to define who I want to take. And similar to the general power of attorney, you have the ability to appoint more than one medical surrogate. You could appoint, we have 2 children, so we could appoint both children as co-surrogates. Again, you may run into the issues of what if the 2 people can't make a decision? That's a conversation to have with an attorney while you're preparing and or drafting this document. And last but not least, we're going to transition into wills. Wills are my favorite in law school. I loved my wills, trusts, and estate class. And we start once again with our resources, Lackawanna Pro Bono and the Lackawanna County Area Agency on Aging. Here are your go-to telephone numbers to call should issues arise. Once again, starting with wills, we begin to define the key terms. And there are really just 3 that I want to talk about this morning. The first is with a will, we need to differentiate between probate and non-probate assets. A very easy way to differentiate the 2 is think of a life insurance policy or retirement accounts. In those accounts, you appoint a beneficiary that states in the event of your death, what you would like to happen or what will happen with the proceeds from these accounts. These are examples of non-probate assets. Non-probate assets are outside of the will. The will only manages probate assets. What's a probate asset? Generally, everything that's not a non-probate asset. Oh, that's great, Teddy. That makes absolutely no sense. So what are some examples? Well, probate is real property. Your home could be included in there. All of your personal property, vehicles, jewelry, furniture, lamps, clothing, dresses, and bank accounts too, in some circumstances, could be deemed to fall under the terms of the will. So now when we've distinguished non-probate and probate, we're going to focus on probate because that's what the will controls. The 2 key terms in the will are the testator or the testatrix, and then the executor, the executrix, or the administrator or administratrix. The testator, of course, is the name of the decedent, the person that has died. If I have drafted a will in the event of my death, my spouse or the person I have appointed to manage my affairs under the will is called the executor or the executrix. What happens, however, if I die without a will? What happens then is Pennsylvania has a set of laws and rules that dictate what happens. And the person that manages the affairs in that case is called an administrator or the administratrix. Essentially the same roles as a testator or testatrix. The only difference is if a will has been brought into court to say, this is Teddy's will, my spouse Cindy, here you go. Or if Teddy doesn't have a will, then Cindy would come in and sign up to be the administratrix in that example right there. I'll leave you with the following tips regarding wills. The original will is not needed for probate. I'm sorry. The original will is needed for probate. A copy is not acceptable. So put the will someplace safe, not necessarily in a safe deposit box, because then it'll be hard for people to find in the event of your death. And then let your executor or executrix know where the will is, so they will be able to access it in the event of your passing. And I'll leave you once again with my community resources. 4 times is the charm: Lackawanna Pro Bono and the Lackawanna County Area Agency on Aging. Thanks, everybody. You've been a great audience. I'll be around for questions at the end. Back to you, Mary.
Thank you, Teddy. That was very interesting. And again, if anyone has questions, please throw them in the chat box and we can get to them at the end of the presentation. We're going to move over back to Pam from Lackawanna County Pro Bono. All right, Pam, take it away. And again, if anyone has questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. My name is Pam, and I am from Lackawanna Pro Bono. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator, and I coordinate the Area Agency on Aging's Elder Law Clinic through Lackawanna Pro Bono. So we're going to talk about today is a little bit of information about where you can obtain and figure out whether you qualify for free legal services. In Lackawanna County, there are 2 main programs that people access. One is North Penn Legal Services. You'll hear them referred to as the Legal Aid Office. They are based in Pittston, but they do have a Scranton office now in downtown Scranton, so they're able to meet with people. And they work with civil legal problems that people have. They do a lot with landlord-tenant, protection from abuse orders, bankruptcy, other consumer matters, credit cards. A lot of custody and family law issues come through them. And they are a sister organization to us. Lackawanna Pro Bono was founded over 2 decades ago to assist people who would qualify for free legal services, but because of a conflict or because North Penn Legal Services isn't able to take their case, they wouldn't have been able to get help. So Lackawanna Pro Bono works with a network of amazing, truly amazing volunteer attorneys through Lackawanna County. Teddy is one of them. Nancy Brace is one of them. Kathy is in public service already, so we don't get to make her come and do anything because she's already serving the community and serving the county. But we have attorneys who do work to volunteer and take cases to assist people for free. There are other programs in Lackawanna County. Some of them are smaller and more specialized, like the Women's Resource Center. They have the Barbara Hart Justice Center. There are also programs outside of Lackawanna County that you can access at times for certain things like health law. Temple has a really good health law program. That comes to mind. There's some community justice projects is doing some work around the state with systemic change. So the best place to start if you're looking for assistance is either with North Penn or Lackawanna Pro Bono. If either of those programs are unable to help, we do tend to be pretty good at being able to refer you if there's other programs that might be helpful to you, or to provide the number for the lawyer referral service if it's not something that we can help with. Can we go next slide, please? So how do you qualify for the programs? You do exactly what Teddy told you. Give us a call and we'll have some questions for you. We fill out an application. We would need to know your total household income and your assets. And generally for both North Penn and for us, we're looking for income that's below 125% of the poverty level. And I know the next question everybody's gonna ask is, what is that level? My best suggestion is that give us a call. Because part of the application process for both programs is to see if there are expenses that we may be able to deduct from the household income, which may help. So the best thing that you can do is to contact both programs. Your case, for us at least, must be in Lackawanna County. North Penn Legal Services does have a footprint in the whole northeast corner of the state, but our volunteers stay primarily in Lackawanna County, so your case should be here. And it has to be the type of case we can handle. Unfortunately, we're not able to help everybody in every case that calls. We particularly don't assist with criminal cases. That's the public defender's office, and we can give you a referral to them. There are some cases that are lower level cases, misdemeanor cases, harassment comes to mind, that are held at the magisterial district justice courts. And unfortunately, those are sort of a quasi-criminal case, and it's not something that we can assist with on North and North Penn. So we would provide the information for you to try to for private counsel if that's the case for that. Next slide, please. So the Elder Law Clinic is something that we started, I would say about maybe 4 years ago. Time flies, I think it's 3 years. And it's a partnership between Lackawanna Pro Bono, the Area Agency on Aging, and the Lackawanna County Commissioners. And the project is aimed at assisting individuals who are Lackawanna County residents who are age 60 and over, at or below 125% of poverty, deal with some of the legal issues that they have. We do two primary things. We have a clinic program that we had been running and had been up and running really well until COVID hit us in March. So we're trying to get back up and running with our documents, but we provide brief legal assistance and advice only for about maybe a half hour a person. You can sit and talk to an attorney if your civil legal issue is something that we can assist with and you're financially qualified. And you can get some brief advice. Sometimes the advice solves the problem. Sometimes the advice is you need to look for an attorney to assist you. Sometimes the advice is that we can make a referral to Lackawanna Pro Bono or to North Penn Legal Services or a different program. But it's just a chance to sit and kind of get an idea of where you are with a specific program or a specific question that you have. We also provide wills, powers of attorney, and living wills. We are working to get that portion of the program back up and running. Pre-COVID, we were meeting with people in local libraries. They had in their conference rooms. We were meeting with them at the Lackawanna Bar Association, sometimes in our office in the county building, and at the Jewish Community Center. They have or had a senior center through there, and they were letting us use their beautiful conference room. Unfortunately, with COVID, there are restrictions now on our access to most of those places. So we're looking to move into a hybrid model where we can provide document drafting via Zoom or via phone, have people check their draft of their documents. If there's no questions, we're going to schedule a time for them to come in at a place we're still working on to have those documents witnessed and notarized. Our goal is always to keep everybody safe. And it's so much changes with the pandemic so quickly that every time we think we have something settled, we have another issue we kind of have to iron out. So we're almost there, but we are encouraging people to continue to call. We can provide and have been providing emergency legal assistance and phone advice throughout the pandemic and throughout the office closure since March. And we're hoping to be back up and running with the documents shortly. And we do have a wait list, so we're able to talk to people, let you know if you qualify, and put you on the list for us. I think this is my last screen coming up. And this is the tough love portion of this. I say this as a person who runs a clinic, but also as somebody who lost my dad a year ago. Get your documents done. You know, and I said this to my dad when we were doing his. It's truly, and I say this with love, it's not about you. It truly is about helping your family, giving them peace of mind, letting them know what your wishes are. There's so much going on that it's just a blessing, and it's something to be very grateful for. You know, to know what people need, to know what they want. The time to get those documents is before you need them. You're less stressed. You're better able to make good decisions, and you have more of an opportunity. You know, to get in and to get an appointment and to get things done. I make better decisions when I'm not stressed. I know most people do. So when you're, you know, looking at having surgery 2 days from now, can you do your documents? Absolutely. Are you going to have the same ability to focus on what you need to do? Maybe not so much. And the other thing you have to consider is that, you know, you do want to be mentally clear when you make these decisions. You need to be legally competent. to tell people what, you want and who you want to handle your affairs for you. So we get calls a lot of times from people who are unfortunately beyond a place where we can assist them. We get calls from family members saying, well, I just want, just give me a power of attorney for my parent. And, we have to explain if they're not able to make decisions with us, if they're not able to meet with the attorney, tell the attorney what they want, be clear about what they need, then we're not able to provide that document. It's a different thing. Sometimes it's a guardianship that they have to consider filing, but it's a lot easier for everybody if you're able to do it before you actually need it and when you're mentally in a place where you're capable of doing that. And the last thing I would say is I'm an only child, so I'm a committee of one, which makes my life so much easier when I have to make decisions with my parents or for my parents. I hear all the time people say, my child who's here, I'm going to pick them, but the child, and God bless, we have family members, and my mom has sisters, and some of them live out of town. It's usually the person that's out of town that has the questions, has the issues, has more trouble getting into help. So, consider that when you're making your decisions, and consider, if you can and if you're comfortable telling your family or your friends or whoever you put in charge why you did it, so they understand. Because, I had a family member two family members who shared power of attorney and cared for another relative of ours. And the nurse made all the financial decisions, and the person who was a printer made all of the medical decisions, because the nurse, when approached, that it was too close. It was a family member, and she just didn't feel comfortable. So the communication is key. And, again, the tough love part, it really isn't about you, which may make it a little easier to approach this. It really is about, letting your wishes be known, so that it makes it a little easier on your family when they're called to make those decisions. I know when I was called to do it with my mom, I kept saying to her, is this the right thing? Is this the right thing? My mom kept saying, well, this is what your dad wanted. This is why we did this. This is why everything is in place. So, just for what it's worth and in the tough love, before you need them and when you can make the good decisions. And I'll be here until the end if anybody has questions.
Pam, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation on Lackawanna County Pro Bono. I am now going to turn the screen over to Kathy Tully and Nancy Barres, and they are going to speak with you about some frauds that may happen while working in the legal fields.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to let Nancy talk first, because if you're seeing me, it's because there's a problem. And the goal of this presentation is to hopefully you never have to meet me. You never have to call my office. So Pam and Teddy have already given some great tips. So I'm going to let Nancy kind of do that, and then I'll wrap it up with what to do if there is a problem for you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Yes? Okay, great. So thanks so much so far, Teddy and Pam, for talking about the practical issues related to getting that power of attorney done and the getting your will done or your living will. So I represent the Lackawanna County Area Agency on Aging, and they are truly one of my favorite clients. It's an incredible organization. It's a government entity that is headed by Jason Kavulich. And Mr. Kavulich has a great vision for the agency. And part of that is to ensure that we educate everyone in Lackawanna County about what we do and how we can help hook people up with necessary services. The goal today is really to talk about why the Area Agency on Aging gets involved when there are problems. But I just want you to know that before there are problems, you should always reach out to the Area Agency on Aging and ask them if they can provide some type of services. Now, I want to be clear. That doesn't mean that people from the aging office come out and that they are the nurses or they are the bankers. What they do is they coordinate the services for individuals who are 60 and up. Now, I don't know if we all want to say that somebody who's 60 is an elder, but under the law in Pennsylvania, under the Older Adult Protective Services Act, if you are 60 or over, you are an individual who is considered to be an elder. So I'm sorry to break that news to those of you who don't think of it that way, but that's how the statute is written by the legislators in Harrisburg. The Area Agency on Aging, when we're called in on cases before they reach Kathy, or sometimes Kathy is working on them at the same time, we have a different role than the DA's office. Our role is to investigate and determine how we can reduce the risk to an older adult who may be the victim of a scam or a family member or other individual who is taking their money, or who maybe promised to help them out in their home and render some personal care or go to the store for them, and they're maybe exploiting them. So it's unfortunate that we have to deal with those cases, but those cases do exist. Actually, yesterday, the Department of Aging issued a new press release regarding how bad it is in Pennsylvania for some of our residents. Let me tell you that the majority of the victims of scams and exploitation in Pennsylvania are women. 61% are women. And of those 61%, the average age is 79 years old. Many times those individuals are widowed, they're living in their residence, and they're isolated. And the problem is, when you're isolated, many times people become dependent on other individuals to help them out. And you know, that's great, because there are a lot of wonderful people in our community that help out. There's wonderful family members that, you know, as children, they were taken care of by their adults. And as their parents age, it turns. And now that child is helping the parent out. It doesn't mean that the parent isn't capable, but they just can't do everything that they did before. They might not be able to do it as quickly or as thoroughly, and they need assistance. We get involved in cases where individuals were purportedly going to help out and they exploited them. The amount of money that is lost is incredible. It's not just the amount of money, though, that may be stolen. Many times what it is it's the quality of life that's actually stolen. Imagine that you've saved your money and you have maybe a retirement income, and you might also have Social Security income coming in. And you figured that when you retired, that you could cover all of your bills. Maybe you paid off your house, or maybe you rent, and you can meet all of your bills, and you feel very good about that. And then you have a new best friend, is what we call them, who all of a sudden, they're always around, they always want to help, they always tell you what you want to hear. And then you trust them. And then they talk about, well, you know, I could really help you out, but I really should have a power of attorney. Why don't we call a lawyer and get a power of attorney? Now, to me, that's the first red flag. When we have someone who wants to do a power of attorney and they call, even in my private law office, I'm always listening to who's making the phone call. Is it the person who wants the power of attorney, who, as Teddy explained, is the principal, or is it the agent? Is it the person who wants the power? That to me is extremely important. If someone says to you, you need a power of attorney, think about who is saying it to you. Make sure that's a person who you have a long-term relationship with trust. Now listen, sometimes your life circumstances have led to where the people that you've trusted have passed away or they're not around. Call the Area Agency on Aging. There are wonderful nonprofit agencies that can help you out, and they can serve as your agent. So don't feel that you're alone in this. We have wonderful resources. Don't feel that you have to depend on people that you really don't trust. That's my number one issue with a power of attorney. It has to be someone that you really trust. Now, sometimes their life circumstances change and they may become financially dependent on you. Maybe they live with you. Maybe they lost their job. COVID has created a lot of problems for people. They don't have the income that they used to have. We have many people that have moved back home. while it's great to have them home, it's also great to have their income coming in. And maybe it's a burden on you to be supporting them. And that's okay. That's what families do, and that's what friends do for each other. But when it becomes exploitation, it becomes a problem. When you sign a power of attorney, you are authorizing someone to act on your behalf. That means they can go down to the bank and they can withdraw money. Now, one of the issues that we see many times in a power of attorney is a standard power of attorney may have language that you are allowing your agent. So before, when Teddy said I was his agent, Teddy gave me the power in the power of attorney to make unlimited gifts. And do you know who my favorite charity is? You're looking at her. It's me. So I gift myself because Teddy let me do that. Now, many attorneys will put in language in that power of attorney that limits how much. And they may say the amount that the federal government says that you can give without paying a gift tax. This year, that's $15,000. That's a lot of money. Now, to some people it's not, but to a lot of others it is. I never recommend using that as your standard. I want you to think about, if you are going to allow someone to make gifts, what the dollar amount is. I think it's very reasonable to say $500 a year and no more than that. Or it might be $50. That's a very personal choice. The nice thing about a power of attorney is it's your power of attorney. Don't download a power of attorney off the internet and use that. And the reason I say that to you is that you are really getting what you paid for. You have gotten no legal advice about that. That's a mistake. Many of those forms don't work in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has very strict rules about powers of attorney. And unfortunately, sometimes people download a power of attorney thinking it will work in Pennsylvania, and it doesn't. So you put the time and energy into it, and it really isn't going to get you anywhere. So I recommend that you don't do that. And I recommend you always reach out to an attorney who knows what they're doing in the area of elder law. The Elder Law Clinic is a fantastic clinic, and it really does help people set up their documents. Now, some people don't qualify for that because of their assets are higher than what's permitted under that program. But as Pam indicated, there are referral services, and they in the Lackawanna County Bar Association can always refer you to an attorney who can help you out. Many times what we see with a power of attorney is that the power of attorney sometimes decides to make decisions for you as the principal. Let me give you an example. I had a case where the power of attorney decided that his uncle should have a new roof. Well, the uncle didn't want a new roof. And he said, I don't want a new roof. But his nephew said, well, you're going to get a new roof. You know why he was doing that? Because the nephew was going to end up with the house in the will. So he was using his uncle's money to put a new roof on the house. Your agent cannot go against what you want. So if your agent is doing something you don't want, don't think that you're stuck. You tell them no. And if they continue to do it, then you call the Area Agency on Aging. You call your lawyer who drafted the document. That lawyer should have been working for you, not for the agent. You call the DA's office if you feel that someone is stealing your money or using your money in a way that you did not envision or you did not authorize. It's extremely important under a power of attorney. Now, when you are no longer capable of making decisions for yourself, your power of attorney can then be acting if that power of attorney is what we call a durable power of attorney. And that durable power of attorney agent is acting on your behalf, and maybe you don't understand what they're doing anymore. If you don't trust that person to take action for you when you can't monitor what they're doing, then you can't trust that person at all. And I hate to be the one who sounds so negative, but it's what we see. And we see the exploitation cases. We see the cases where someone has trusted. Now, beyond the wills and the powers of attorney, remember this. First of all, with a will or a power of attorney, you can always do a new one. It's simple. You change who the person is. With your will, you can change your will all the time. And guess what? When you die, your power of attorney no longer works. Your power of attorney only works while you're alive. So upon your death, whoever was serving as your power of attorney, you may have appointed them as the executor of your estate. And Teddy talked about probate assets and how that executor would be in charge then. Well, it's too late now for you to make any changes. And maybe you wouldn't want to make any changes. Maybe they are doing everything that you want them to do. You can't worry about that. You only have to really now worry about who you put in charge while you're alive. Many times with a power of attorney, the Area Agency on Aging Protective Services will investigate, and we find that, and we just had a recent case where the agent is spending a lot of money from the principal's bank account, and they're entitled to do that. You know why? Because the principal allowed them to do it. So we can't say under the rules in the law in Pennsylvania for exploitation that that individual was exploited because you let them do it. You let them do it through unlimited gifting clauses. You let them do it because you didn't put any type of parameters or boundaries in what they can do for you. Sometimes you need a power of attorney just for a short period of time. And we call that a limited power of attorney, where you say they can only handle a certain thing for me. Now, many times we see where someone is married and they lost their spouse. And as Pam talked about, making decisions when you are mentally clear, if you are grieving the loss of someone who you loved, you may not be thinking really clearly at that point in time, and everyone has to give you some space. But guess what? Many family members at that point say, hey, mom or dad, we got to get you to a lawyer. You have to do a new will because, you know, mom or dad has died now and you've got to go in there and get everything cleared up. Well, make sure it's what you wanted to do. Believe it or not, 65% of the perpetrators under the the Older Adult Protective Services Act are family members. 42% of them are adult children. 10% are adult grandchildren. You need to really think about whether or not it's the appropriate time for you to do it. Maybe you wait a little bit longer and kind of get your feet back on the ground and figure out what you're going to do and take your time in doing it. One of the issues that I would ask you to really think about is if you feel that someone is doing something and they make you anxious, you trusted them, and now you don't know what to do, call the Area Agency on Aging. The number has been put up on the screen a number of times by Teddy. Thank you, Teddy. Call them and we will get you to the resources you need. The last thing I just want to say, only because it was brought up by one of our other panelists, is be careful with joint accounts. Joint accounts many times occur when a parent passes away and a mom and dad had a joint bank account together, and now one of them has passed away and one of the kids is put onto the account for the purposes of convenience. And it is very convenient because that person can now write out bills for you without having a power of attorney. And that sounds great. But you know what the problem is? They're a joint owner of that bank account. And two things happen. Number one, while there are some protections under the law, both the civil and criminal law, when a joint owner takes out excessive amounts of money, they had access. You gave them the keys to the bank. You opened the vault and they went in. Now, maybe the DA's office can prosecute and maybe a lawsuit can be brought against them. But what if they have no money left? It's all gone. They may be prosecuted and they may have a judgment against them, which is what the court would enter, that they have to pay you the money back. But they don't even have a job. you're not going to get that money back. Your quality of life and your way of life will never be the same. You may have a person that you really trust, and that's not an issue for you. And, you know, good for you. I always say to family members who are trying to figure out, you know, how they decide who's going to be their agent. And some people don't even worry about it because they have so many people in their life. And I say to them, you know what? The dividend you got out of the way your family members or friends have a relationship with you is that now they're there for you. And that's that payback. It's not an amount of money, it's that you have a trust with them. In cases where that trust has been violated, call the Area Agency on Aging and we will help you out. And Kathy Tully is absolutely going to help you out because she's hot on these cases and she has been going to court all the time to make sure that our victims' voices are heard in the criminal court. And Kathy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nancy. So like I said, if you're coming to me, you know, unfortunately, we're going to do our best to help you out. But Nancy just pointed out that doesn't mean we're going to make you whole in every aspect of your life. A lot of times we're holding the offender accountable for their bad and wrong choices. We will do our best to make you whole, but we cannot get blood from a stone. So these are decisions that you should be taking the advice of Pam, Teddy, and Nancy and making sure your documents are in order. The one thing I do want to touch on, and Nancy and I have had a lot of cases together where the gifting clause has been a problem and it's been a roadblock to prosecution. You always have the option of there are no gifts coming out of your accounts. So that is an option for you as well. Now, one of the things I do want to bring to everyone's attention is, you know, with Jason Kavulich at the head of Aging, is around the same time I took over our elder abuse unit, we have reestablished our elder justice multidisciplinary team. This is a team that meets every month. We have a coordinated approach to give everyone maximum protection and maximum support, and we work very hard to raise awareness of the issues that face our older population here in Lackawanna County. We don't handle just criminal matters. We handle a variety of concerns within the community. We have representatives there from my office, from Pro Bono, from Area Agency on Aging. Department of Health comes to our meetings, the Department of Human Services. We have local providers such as the Women's Resource Center, the Right Center. We have the ombudsman from Lackawanna County for older adults in facilities that comes. Jewish Home of Northeastern Pennsylvania comes. We even have various banks that come to the table because about 80% of the cases that I deal with are allegations of financial exploitation. So, and we've even had some guests from the Auditor General Office who have periodically come to our meetings so that we can provide the best that we can to our aging population. My biggest discussing point today is going to be scams. We unfortunately see a lot of these, and it does happen. It can happen to anyone. And the biggest problem we have is when we approach someone who we believe has been victimized, one of the first things out of their mouth is, please don't tell my children. They are embarrassed that they got scammed, but the reality is it can happen to anybody. It does not need to be some stigma. It is not a judgment on whether or not you're mentally fit. There are highly intelligent people, there are young people who fall victim to a scam. So anytime you're being pressured to act now, send the money now or else, or send gift cards. Those should all be red flags. Pause. There's no one that's going to contact you through the phone, through the internet, or through email saying you have to do this now or else. So take a second, take a step back, think it through, and call and get someone else's opinion. Should something happen, there's a variety of resources because like I said, it happens. It happens to everybody of every age. So this is a lot of information. I don't expect you to copy it now, but my understanding is this presentation will be available through Aging in Place on their website. So you can go back and you can get all of this information. And if God forbid something happens, these are some of the resources you can turn to. What I want to touch on too is each year we have about 5 million cases that are reported. That is not Lackawanna County. That is a large number. That is a state countrywide number. For each case that's reported, it is estimated 4 never come to light, and the financial loss is $2.6 billion. So we're taking this opportunity today to educate our older adults and our participants, but we also have to educate the loved ones that are caring for them to help hopefully avoid this downfall. In my capacity, there's a lot of different types of abuse that we prosecute and investigate. There's, the physical crimes, there's mental, there are sexual offenses, cases of neglect, and like I said, the financial cases. If you are concerned that you've been a victim, aging's number once again. And for law enforcement, a lot of people want to call and talk to me directly, and I'm happy to do that and point you in the right direction. But I do need everyone to go through law enforcement. Call your local police. If it's Pennsylvania State Police that have jurisdiction over your house, that's who you're calling. If you're not sure, call 911, and there's a non-emergency 911 number you can call that's on the screen too. But I just need to make sure everyone's aware, if this case is going to proceed to trial, I'm not the witness. So that's why it's important that you go through law enforcement. They will bring things to me. I can sit down and talk with people. I could talk with people over the phone and give people guidance. But you do need to call law enforcement as soon as possible. As far as some scams that we've dealt with, we had a rash, about a 6-9 month period. We had a lot of money going out in the mail, straight up cash, $10,000 to $20,000. We coordinated with other states on a couple of cases that were successful prosecutions. We had a southern state that contacted us that one of their residents had put about $20,000 in the mail to a Scranton address. Because of the quick response and the coordination of efforts, there was a tracking number on the package, and we were able to switch that package out and do a controlled mail delivery and arrest the 3 people that were waiting for that package, and that was successfully prosecuted. We also had cases of individuals residing in Lackawanna County who were sending money to other states, and we were able to coordinate with those jurisdictions, and they were able to do similar efforts. So there is a nationwide push. We recognize that this happens, and we are going to do everything we can to bring those responsible to justice. Some of the other scams we've seen a lot recently is every now and again the sheriff posts on their Facebook page. If you miss something, we don't threaten you with money, like pay money, or we're going to pick you up on an arrest warrant and incarcerate you. So if you are internet savvy, and since you're participating in a webinar, I'm going to assume you are, those might be some of the pages you want to like. Most local police departments have their own pages. If there's something going on in the community, they're going to let you know. We've seen some uptick with there's free COVID money available, but they want you to give information or for you to give banking. So again, take a second, take a step back, and do some independent research. We all get those phone calls with extended warranties. I'm hoping that will end soon, because I think most people know there's not an extended warranty issue with your vehicle. I know it's not, because my 10-year-old daughter gets those phone calls, and I know she doesn't have a car with an extended warranty. So when you're talking to people about their calls they're getting, if you're getting them too, you know just to hang up. Just some last minute tips about minimizing risk. Make sure you're reviewing your financial statements. Make sure you have your financial statements. If someone else is getting them and they're saying, hey, they're not coming through, I don't know, they're not in the mail, then you need to call your bank or your financial institution to get those statements. You can periodically check your credit report to see if there's any unusual inquiries on your credit. If you lose something, make sure you report it to the company. Keep some sort of independent ledger of credit cards, credit card numbers, the contact numbers on the back of the card. So if something happens, Like I said, our elder justice team, we have banks that come to the table. They know their customers. If you're a person who goes into the bank to do your business, if something's off with you that day, they're probably going to notice. If someone is pressuring you to take out money, that's the same person you can disclose, and they can help you get help safely. Never give out any of your personal information over the phone. And if someone shows up unannounced at your door, look to see if they have a marked vehicle with them. Demand to see their identification. If you have to answer that door and you're still concerned, call a friend. Have them on the phone while you answer. And if you're not sure who the company is, try to call the company. It doesn't take long to look up someone's phone number online. Don't take that person's word that this is the phone number you call. Do it yourself. We had a couple cases where the individual got called because their grandson was in jail. Oh, was in a bad car accident. They can't come to the phone, and you need to send money now, or you need to send that gift card now. And the biggest red flag we see is if they tell you not to say something, that's the exact circumstance where you should be saying something. I think with that, I think my presentation is done. And if there's any questions for the panelists, I'm sure Mary will moderate that for us.
Yes, I will. We do. We have 5 questions. However, I just want to offer all of the panelists some couple of seconds to, is there anything else you'd like to mention that as other panelists were talking, you thought of?
I'll jump in real quick. Nancy, you do a fantastic job explaining competency. Pam talked about the mental competency required for the elder documents. Would you just maybe take a minute or two to talk about the competency requirement for the principal to partake in these documents?
Sure. So when we look, first of all, when you're presenting to an attorney, and remember what I mentioned was that it's not a great idea to download a document because no one is really sitting there having a conversation with you. When we have a conversation as a lawyer with a client, we're not just listening to what their goals are, we're listening to the whole person. And if they're saying things that are inconsistent, ethically, I would not ever draft a power of attorney or will. So what we look at is, do you know, not necessarily who the president is. We don't do those types of, it's called a mini mental exam that they do in the hospital. But we ask you questions that are really at a higher level when it comes to a power of attorney. Under Pennsylvania law, you don't really need to have a high level of capacity to do your will. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania has said even an individual with dementia, if they know who they are, basically what they have, and who they want to leave things to, then that meets the test. It's a very low threshold for a will. However, for a power of attorney, it's a higher threshold because you're now dealing with things that impact you while you're alive. So your ability to understand your finances, understand the difference between having a joint account versus appointing someone as your power of attorney. Those are conversations that your attorney should be having with you. Do you understand that someone can go and take money out of your account with a power of attorney and they're not going to tell you? Well, if your response to me was, well, they wouldn't do that, I'm going to say you don't understand what I'm talking about. They can do that. That's really what the issue is. So it's a higher level of capacity to do a power of attorney where we're looking at your ability to manage your financial affairs. If you can't manage your financial affairs, then you can't give someone else the authority to handle them. And I think, Teddy, you would agree with me, there's sort of a smell test with it. When that person is sitting with you, if they don't even remember what they had for breakfast, I mean, those are the conversations. Don't think that you should run into your lawyer and have a 2-minute conversation about doing a power of attorney. Attorneys are also counselors. They're counselors at law, which means that we listen to what your goals are, we explain what the law is, and we try to make sure that you can reach your goal. But you have to understand what the law is and how it works. And if you keep on telling us what your goal is and it's inconsistent with what the law would allow, then that tells us something's going on. And as we said earlier, sometimes if someone else brings you to the office, you are not even the one who made the appointment. I always ask someone in my office, why are you here? What are your goals? Because that's all we should be working on is what your goals are. And then we give you advice. So that's, I would say, the easiest way to explain how we determine whether or not someone has capacity and whether it's their choices that we're working with or someone else's. Does that answer it for you, Teddy?
Nancy,
Just
thank you so
just
much.
to
And I'm
jump in
sorry,
on
go ahead.
that as well, I'm sorry, when people come into the clinic for us and they are accompanied by somebody, I'm good at being the bad guy and having that person sit in the waiting room,
Mhm.
and having the person who is the principal who wants to make the will or the power of attorney go in and speak to the attorney on his or her own, so that the attorney is sure that they're there, that they understand why they're there, that they want to be there, that it's their doing, and it's their request. And we have had times where we have turned people away. We've had times where we've gone to Area Agency on Aging and asked them to bring in a caseworker, because we were concerned for people, with their permission. You are adults, unless there's something else that's going on, you have free will and we have to listen, and we do our best, but we're pretty good at being persuasive too if we're concerned for you. But we don't let somebody else come back in until the attorney has time to talk to you by yourself, just to ensure that that's, you're there because you want to be.
Mhm.
Thank you to all of you for that. I am going to start off our question and answer period. From Wendy Carlin. Hello, I am a service coordinator at a low-income senior high-rise. I have been having my residents call the aging office to request legal assistance for will, power of attorneys, and living wills. Should I still have them do this to get on the list while things are still being figured out for appointments?
Absolutely. We call people, we do intakes with them to make sure they're financially qualified. And if not, we make referrals for them, but absolutely. Sometimes I keep saying to people, I don't understand where everybody is in a pandemic, especially when we were sheltering in place. I would call and people wouldn't answer and I don't understand why. So yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit to connect, but absolutely have them call. We'll have a great conversation and we'll get everything done. And then when we do open up, I feel like we're going to go really quickly once we, have a few more questions answered. So yes, definitely.
Second question from Sarah Bodnar. Helpful, and I'm very familiar with many of these terms. When it comes to who can request to be administrator or administratrix of an estate, is there a next of kin pecking order of who would be eligible to take on this role?
Nancy, maybe I'll throw that one over to you quick if you wouldn't mind. Oh, but you're muted.
Oh, you're muted, Nancy.
Yep. All
There you
right.
go.
I just wanted to read the book. I'm familiar with when it comes to who can request to be the administratrix of an estate. Is there a next of kin pecking order? Okay, so what it sounds like when we use the term administratrix, that's usually the term that's used when someone died without a will, and that's called intestate. And there is a pecking order under the statute as to who can serve as the personal representative or administratrix of the estate. And you start with the spouse. Then there are issues where if you were, so first we'll talk about married individuals. If you were married and you are now survived by a spouse, you died without a will. If you have children from a previous relationship, those children are in an equal spot with you to serve under the statute, and individuals would have to sign what's called a renunciation and say, I renounce to someone else my right to serve. A renunciation does not in any way renounce your right to your inheritance. It only renounces as to who is running the estate. And then if you are not married and you pass away and you had children, then the children are all equally able to serve. They can all serve, or again, you could go through the renunciation process. If you had no children, it could be a sibling. If you had a sibling who died before you and you have other siblings who are still alive, and the sibling who died before you had children, those children are equally entitled, so they would be nieces and nephews of a decedent. They would be equally entitled to serve like an aunt or uncle, so you have to have renunciations. So that's where I would recommend that you call a lawyer and find out at that point in time who the family tree is if someone passed away without a will. Now, you just created a lot more work for everyone, and that's why we want everyone to have a will, so you got the opportunity to appoint who you wanted to handle your affairs. Teddy, do you think that covered that, and Pam?
That's it. And just to be clear, on the intestacy side, the top pecking order, the surviving spouse and the children stand together at the same time, right? And that's where the renunciations would occur between that group of people first, and then we go out into the family tree from there.
That's correct.
Thank you. So Janet asks all of our panelists, what constitutes non-probate property?
So that's a pretty broad question. So non-probate property is any property that you have already designated who gets it. So it could be your 401k with a beneficiary. It could be a joint account with a co-owner. It could be your property, your real estate that you own with an individual with right of survivorship. It has to say that on a deed for it to be non-probate. It could be a investment account where you have a designation that says ITF, in trust for, or POD, payable on death, or TOD, transfer on death. Those are the three big designations for beneficiaries on bank accounts. But really, it's any asset that you own jointly with another individual or that you have designated who gets it, such as a life insurance policy or any other financial account that you could put a beneficiary designation on.
Thank you, Nancy. Sarah, again, I can see on the website who gets what, but will certain relatives get turned away upon request to be administrator if there are more priority relatives alive? I hope I'm making sense in my attempt to sound diplomatic. You are, Sarah.
She is, and I think when I recap Nancy's discussion, that may have answered
Yes.
a little bit of Sarah's.
And Sarah, if you need more information, we can connect you with Teddy, Nancy, and Pam. Kathy, we'll leave you out of that one if it's okay. Okay, that is all of our questions for now. As I just mentioned, if anyone does have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can either contact me at our NeighborWorks office, 570-558-2490, or you can contact me via email. My email is on the flyer, but also it's mendrusick, ENDRUSICK, at nwnepa.org. I would like to take this time to thank all of our panelists once again, to thank everyone who attended. We will be posting the recording of this webinar on our Facebook page and on our website. Our website is located at www.nwnepa.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Take care.